Okay, let's dive into this explainer. We're going to be looking at how the analysis of professional soccer, the beautiful game, is undergoing an absolutely massive revolution. For decades, right, analyzing the sport basically meant a manager sitting up in the stands with a notepad, just trusting their gut and their eyes. But today, it's completely different. Today, it means data scientists processing literally millions of spatial coordinates to mathematically map out exactly how a team behaves. We're talking a total shift from manual observation to machine learning, and honestly, the implications for the sport are staggering.
So you really have to ask, how do you actually measure a team's playing style? Now, this is the ultimate question for fans and coaches alike. Think about it. If someone asks you how your favorite team plays, you're probably going to throw around words like attacking or defensive or maybe possession-based. But how do you put a number on that? Well, the answer to that question has totally transformed over the last 10 years. It's not just about gut feelings or subjective observation anymore. It's all about concrete, measurable patterns.
All right, let's start our journey by looking back at the manual observation era.
To really get how we used to analyze team dynamics, we have to look at one of the most legendary squads in history, the 2003-2004 Arsenal Invincibles. Historically, human analysts tracked basically everything manually, across a grueling 38-game season. They counted starting appearances, they tracked substitutions, and they mapped out those static formations, like your classic 4-4-2. And sure, the insights were great, but man, they were hard-earned. For instance, an analyst would have to manually note how Kolo Touré shifted from center back to right back when Lauren was out, or keep track of how Robert Pires and Freddie Ljungberg were constantly rotating out on the wings. It required just intense, game-by-game human observation to figure out exactly how Arsene Wenger was using his 20 core players to pull off that unbeaten season.
But here is the real problem with all of that. Human analysis at that level of depth, it is incredibly expensive, it's virtually unscalable, and frankly, it is totally limited by human bias and memory. You literally cannot pay enough experts to manually track every single pass without their eyes crossing. And that limitation is exactly what leads us into the vast, wild possibilities of automated spatial temporal data mining. Which brings us to our next point. Enter the algorithm. To get past the limits of human observation, data scientists brought in a totally new playbook. We're moving away from the old eye test and introducing something called the Team Tactic Topic Model, or T3M. So what exactly is this algorithm actually looking for? Well, it defines a tactical pattern not as some vague, abstract concept, but as a highly specific, mathematically measurable event on the pitch. It's looking at a frequent series of passes, exactly who is making and receiving those passes, and the precise spatial coordinates of where all that action is happening. Basically, it connects the who with the where. Okay, so how does this whole process actually work in practice? The unsupervised T3M algorithm processes these patterns in 3 simultaneous steps. First up, it draws out hidden, or what they call latent tactical patterns from raw pass data. It does this by separating passes into chunks based on match stoppages and turnovers. Second, it assigns specific passing sequences to these patterns. And third, it maps out player locations using Gaussian distributions, which is really just a fancy way of saying it creates mathematical probability maps of where players are most likely to be standing when they get the ball during a specific tactical move. Now, when you fire up something like the Baidu Big Data Lab demo system, you can actually see all this complex math come to life. Instead of a coach just drawing static arrows on a locker room whiteboard, the software maps out a specific passing network and simultaneously generates these vivid heat maps of spatial distribution. It processes thousands and thousands of coordinates in an instant to reveal the hidden structural layouts of a team with just incredible clarity. Let's see this in action by mapping Barcelona's tiki-taka. We're going to apply this to the absolute ultimate case study, FC Barcelona's famous tiki-taka style from the 2013-14 season. The algorithm digested a staggering 13,367 passes from just 24 matches to figure out the hidden structures inside this legendary playing style. The very first thing it did was split the season into 2,652 distinct playing segments by looking for natural breaks in the game. You know, things like fouls, the ball going out of bounds, or the other team stealing possession. And by analyzing those continuous blocks of passes, the algorithm successfully discovered 10 completely distinct playing styles or patterns that Barcelona used over the season. And remember, no human told the machine what to look for here. The machine just found those 10 core strategies hiding right there in the data.
And when we connect those mathematical patterns to the actual results on the scoreboard, the insights are just incredible. The algorithm found that specific patterns were mathematically way more deadly than others. For example, pattern 13 had a massive 4.00% goal rate, and pattern 9 was right behind it at 3.21%. The numbers literally map a team's specific strategy directly to their scoring efficiency.
Let's zoom in on one of those highly effective strategies, pattern 9. The algorithm proved, mathematically, that this specific pattern was a deadly left-wing attack. But it goes so much deeper than that. It identified Andres Iniesta not just as a guy involved in the play, but as the mathematical strategic center and playmaker of this entire pattern, setting up combinations with Fabregas, Busquets, and Pedro. I mean, it gives coaches absolute, undeniable proof of what actually works on the field.
Which leads us to the next big piece of the puzzle, the mathematics of players. You see, T3M doesn't just evaluate the team as one big whole. It breaks down the spatial roles of the individual cogs in the machine. By using something called principal component analysis, the AI actually groups players by their real tactical behaviors and roles on the pitch, rather than whatever their official listed positions are on the team roster. Defenders, midfielders, forwards, they naturally cluster together based purely on what the data says they do, not their job titles. Meanwhile, heat maps can perfectly show us just how heavily involved different players are across all of the team's various attacking strategies.
A perfect example of this kind of individual analysis is what we can call the Pedro Rodriguez effect. So, usually Pedro plays as a left winger, right? But the data perfectly highlighted his immense, multifaceted value to the team. The algorithm's heat maps prove that his active regions shifted dynamically depending on which tactical pattern was being used. In some patterns, he was the core left attacker. But in others, his data profile completely shifted over to the right wing. It proved mathematically that he was effectively substituting for Lionel Messi on the right side of the pitch.
So, what does this mean for the future? Let's talk about the future of football.
You might be wondering, why does all this super complex modeling actually matter to you when you're just kicking back and watching a match on a Sunday afternoon? Well, it matters because of numbers exactly like this one, 4.00%. This is the real, tangible return on investment for big data in sports. When an algorithm can definitively prove that a specific attacking pattern yields a guaranteed 4% scoring rate from hundreds of segments, it allows modern coaches to exploit real mathematical advantages. They don't have to guess what's working anymore. The math literally hands them the winning blueprint.
This level of deep analysis is exactly what modern clubs are using right now to decipher an opponent's tactics and adapt their own formations on the fly. By automatically clustering similar playing styles across an entire season, teams can see exactly how an opponent reacts to pressure, who their true playmaker actually is, and exactly how to shut them down. It dictates transfer targets, letting teams find the exact mathematical puzzle piece missing from their squad, and it completely moves the sport past the era of human guesswork.
So, as data science continues to evolve and push deeper into the sport we love, it leaves us with a really fascinating paradox to consider. If a machine can analyze thousands of passes, uncover hidden spatial patterns, and perfectly predict the most efficient way to score a goal, just how much of the beautiful game is actually decided before a ball is even kicked? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll leave you to ponder that one until next time.